Chapter 3. A Disheartening Reunion. The sky above Oz holds more secrets than one might first believe. Although a person may be inclined to think that it is merely a feature of nature, the sky is the home of the three goddesses who watch over Oz. Their existence was known to the Ozian people, and they played important roles in maintaining order in society. Even though they were worshipped and adored, their personal lives remained a secret. Two were very benevolent and left their grievances out of their work. However, the other wasn't so merciful to her people. Fate herself was an image of beauty and strength, but her extraordinary magic had been limited for a long time by her mother. Lurline had heard from Love that Fate had been using her incredible power to enact revenge upon people beyond her control. Usually passive, Lurline at first ignored the whole matter. She assumed Love's concerns stemmed from sibling rivalry. It was only when there was evidence that Fate's influence had extended past the barriers of Oz and spread into foreign lands that Lurline listened to these feelings and decided to punish her. Fate's magic now could only be used to fulfill her duty of carrying out the written destinies of every Ozian. This angered the goddess, but she was defenseless against the superior might of Lurline. Fate blamed her sisters for her undoing and forever separated her from them, taking refuge in her own grand palace among the clouds. For as long as Oz had existed, Fate had always been more powerful than her younger sisters. She knew and saw everything that happened in Oz, even though her magical abilities had been significantly reduced. Dorothy Gale's return had been the talk of Oz that day, and Fate was the first to know. All of Oz was smitten with the farm girl who fell out of the sky, but the goddess regarded her with nothing but disdain. The Gales were nothing but country upstarts who disturbed her peace by bringing her grief to the front of her mind. Of course, these little mortals love her. Everyone needs a hero to make their pathetically short lives interesting. Fate reflected coldly, glaring down at Dorothy from above. As long as the girl stays out of my affairs, everything will be fine. The majestic goddess thought herself to be a fair judge, jury, and executioner. She only hurt those who truly deserved it. Having the love of the people was necessary to keep her status. There was also no blind obedience without pure adoration. Although the Ozian people loved anything pleasing to the eye, they loved those who were virtuous much more. Their love of Dorothy proved as much. Any goddess who wanted to be respected had to keep up the appearance of goodness. Fate turned to gaze at the Emerald Palace's vast library and found a particular blue book on one of the older shelves. She looked there from time to make sure it hadn't moved. For if anyone were to discover it and open it, her reputation could be ruined forever. No force in Oz could destroy it. She had tried and failed several times, but magic was weak against the truth held within its pages. If she dares to grab it and starts looking for answers, I will find a way to prevent her from getting far. The goddess thought coolly before deciding that a simpleton was not worth her time. No matter. I doubt she is smart enough to figure out anything that I have kept hidden for all of these years. Fate was not someone that any creature would want to cross. Her piercing green eyes could cut someone into pieces, and her cunning could make any creature question their reality. The goddess's need for retribution had transformed her heart into a dark hole. She welcomed the darkness because it offered more. It allowed her to retaliate against a family she immensely hated. From the height of the sky, Dorothy could see the Emerald City's green spires shining in the morning light. The whole image seemed glorious, as if the city itself had been resurrected after years of neglect. It made her feel impressed by and proud of her straw friend. He made quite a good king after all. During their flight, Weiser continued filling Dorothy in on everything that had happened while she was gone. He told her about various things in perfect detail. The period of Reconstruction after the Jester's reign, Scarecrow's coronation, General Ginger's attempted revolt, and the subsequent peaceful era that Oz was now in. I guess that Scarecrow's only worry is the Gnome Kingdom. Ruggedo is a little tough to reason with, but I'm sure he has it figured out. Weiser said assuringly, thinking that Dorothy was listening to his ramblings. The farm girl and her dog were too busy admiring the beauty of the city. She didn't think she would be surprised, but it was truly the prettiest it had ever been. She noticed a crowd gathering at the front gate. They were all dressed in green from head to toe. Weiser stared down at the crowd nervously, since he knew exactly what was going on. It appears that they are all here to see Scarecrow. The owl observed, looking for the best place to land. You're a very important person, though, so we should be able to skip the line. Oh, it's completely fine. I can wait. Dorothy replied politely, not wanting to exploit her celebrity status. I don't want to make anyone upset. Nonsense. You're always so modest. You saved all of Oz. Twice no less. Weiser said confidently, taking Toto out of his bag and giving him back to Dorothy. I can drop you off at the back of the line and make my way to Munchkinland. If you and Toto don't mind being by yourselves, of course. I just want to make sure I deliver these letters on time. That's perfectly fine. I don't want to get in the way of your work. The farm girl agreed, smiling at her friend gratefully. Thank you for the ride. Anytime, Dorothy, it was honestly not a bother. It was great to see you and Toto again. I hope everything goes well. The giant owl took off again, fading back into the sky. After waving goodbye to her friend, Dorothy walked to the gates of the Emerald City with Toto in her arms. Well, this is it, Toto. The farm girl whispered to her dog, breathing in to calm her nerves. I hope nothing changed much. Dorothy found her place at the back of the line, but a woman with a large green hat who stood in front of her turned around. Her eyes lit up, recognizing the farm girl immediately. Oh my, you're Dorothy Gale. Or a perfect copy of her. The woman beamed, noticing the little dog in her arms. You have Toto, though, so you must be the real deal. My mother and I are really big fans of yours. It's so exciting to meet you. Dorothy smiled and tried not to draw more attention to herself. That's me, but I honestly don't need any recognition. I was just. All of a sudden, she was in the center of the city square surrounded by people on all sides. There were many different voices cheering and calling out her name. Several journalists who happened to be sitting at a nearby cafe ran into the crowd with their notepads, hoping to get a few words from the famous savior of Oz. It was quite overwhelming for the farm girl and her dog, but they both tried to stay calm. Dorothy darted her eyes around, looking for a way out. Thankfully, by some miracle, the old guardian of the gates spotted her. He was dressed elegantly in a black vest and green striped pants with black pointed boots on his feet. There was also a funny hat on his head, and he was very short and stout. He wasn't always on duty and hadn't been the first time she came to the Emerald City to see the wizard. However, he recognized Dorothy immediately. Seeing the alarm on her face, Fairmont braved his way through the crowd to the center where Dorothy stood. He blew a golden whistle around his neck to call for order. Everyone suddenly became quiet, since they had to obey an officer of the crown. His Majesty, the Scarecrow has requested to see Miss Dorothy Gale in his throne room privately. He wishes that all of you let her through safely and without any interruptions. Fairmont said loudly but calmly. He led the farm girl through the crowd that now parted peacefully. The people still stared, admiring the one who had saved all of Oz twice. The reporters quickly wrote down notes, so they could write a story letting the public know that she had indeed returned to Oz. Dorothy didn't know who this stranger was who had saved her from the adoring crowd, but was grateful to him nonetheless. A few of the palace guards followed behind Dorothy and Fairmont to ensure that none of the people in the crowd decided to stop them from passing. They walked past the horse of a different color and the cabbie who waved at her enthusiastically. The beauticians at the Wash and Brush Up Company peeked out of the entrance to catch a glimpse of her as she passed by. She's definitely grown up. One of the stylists remarked plainly to her older colleague, analyzing Dorothy's appearance. The flowers on her dress are a little odd. They must be from Kansas, if I had to guess. Poor girl. People think she is immune to everything. The older stylist replied, looking at the girl with pity. I wonder if her family worries about her every time she's here. Her family probably doesn't care enough, Laura. A manicurist said bluntly, rolling her eyes. I don't see what all the fuss is about. You must be blind then, a receptionist exclaimed, practically jumping for joy. Dorothy Gale is in front of our eyes. Oh, she is quite lovely in person. While they walked from the front gate to the Emerald Palace, Dorothy was carrying many bouquets of summer flowers that the people handed her. Toto followed closely behind her, barking happily at all the people. Although the attention and praise were unexpected, she grew more comfortable, feeling happy that Oz loved her. That's more than could be said for a lot of folks back in Kansas. The Emerald City appeared mostly unchanged from when the wizard had ruled, but Dorothy immediately noticed that the portrait above the palace's entrance was different. There was no longer a mysterious image of the young wizard, but an image of the cornfield with the scarecrow on his old pole, all in green. She guessed that it was some of the only redecorating he did while everyone waited for the wizard to come back. As they went up the small set of emerald stairs, Faramint took out a huge ring filled with golden keys from his coat pocket. He slid the largest one into the lock and opened it, holding the door for the farm girl and her dog. The guards lined up at the bottom of the stairs to prevent anyone from following them into the palace. After their savior had disappeared, many of the citizens who were there to see the king had entirely forgotten their grievances. There was rejoicing about Dorothy's return for the rest of the day. The farm girl and her dog stepped onto the shiny, green floor and were amazed by the colorful mosaics that decorated the hall before them. The little, blue houses of Munchkin Country and its numerous fields of corn were depicted along the walls. The golden stalks shimmered in the light that emanated from the small glass fixtures above. There were also dark wooden vases with an assortment of blue roses and lavender stems. The scarecrow had made the effort to brighten up the space and make it more inviting for his guests. It seemed he saw the palace as home rather than a lair like the wizard had. At the end of the long hallway, the duo saw a tall, slim man with a black mustache. He was in a green military uniform and wore a soldier's hat. He held a golden spear in his right hand. Dorothy remembered that he had a green beard the first time she was here, but she didn't ask what happened to it. Scarecrow had most likely relaxed the strict green dress code that was in place at the time. "Hello, Miss Gale. I am not sure if you recognize me from the first time you were here, but I am Omby Amby, Captain of the Royal Army of Oz and the Guardian of the Throne to His Majesty." The man greeted her formally, taking off his hat and bowing respectfully to her. "I will escort you to the throne room to meet with him." "Thank you, sir. I appreciate it," Dorothy said politely. She smiled at the captain, but the large number of flowers she had received made it difficult for her to look at him. Omby noticed the heavy load of flowers that she had been carrying and took out a green whistle from his coat pocket. When he blew into it, a young maid dressed in green suddenly appeared and carefully took the bouquets from Dorothy. She saw the farm girl and squealed excitedly, earning her a stern glance from the captain. The guardian of the throne cleared his throat. "See to it that these flowers are arranged in vases with water. We will put them in Miss Gale's room later on. Also, let Jellia know she's here as well. This is a great surprise indeed." The maid nodded, giving one last smile to Dorothy before quickly leaving. The farm girl waved to her and laughed. "She seems really sweet." "Sweet is an interesting way to put it, Miss Gale. Mischievous is a better word, I'd say. Also, Omby will do just fine. You're our guest, after all," the captain remarked plainly, opening the green double doors behind him, and motioned for her to follow. "I am sure His Majesty will be very glad to see you." "I hope so, Omby. I have missed him dearly." Dorothy looked down at the ground as she followed the captain. "A lot of time has passed. I understand, but if this comforts you, it seems that he hasn't changed much. People say he is still intelligent, wise, and very compassionate. I can assure you that His Majesty possesses all his old qualities from when you last saw him," Omby replied, being very matter-of-fact about the whole thing. "Speaking of which, Governor Tin Man and King Lion are also here to see His Majesty. They arrived earlier this morning." "Oh, right. Weiser brought me here, and he told me." "Do all of them know I'm here?" Dorothy asked, figuring that they had to know something was going on by now. "Did they see all the commotion outside when I arrived?" "I believe so. They were led into the throne room a few minutes before you showed up," Omby replied, describing how her friends probably saw her. It has these large windows that provide a good view of the city square, so they are certainly expecting you. As they traveled down another hallway to the throne room, Dorothy saw that there were several paintings that hung on the green walls. There were two that she recognized instantly as Lion and Tin Man. They both looked mostly the same, but the farm girl understood that no one could be spared from the expectations of people. In their portraits, there was confidence but also fear. She hoped they would welcome her back with open arms, and that they hadn't forgotten her. The captain noticed the farm girl's interest in the portraits of her two friends. "Since it seems that the paintings interest you, His Majesty's is right over here at the end of the hall." He pointed to the Scarecrow's portrait on the right wall in front of the doors to the throne room. Dorothy expected to see her friend with his usual dorky smile, trying to be kingly. However, the strawman in the painting was very different from the one she had known. He gazed straight ahead with a serious expression on his burlap face. He was dressed in a green velvet suit with golden buttons. The sash across his chest had several medals pinned to it, including the Ozian sun that she had seen last time. The robe of state was draped across his thin shoulders. A golden crown encrusted with emeralds sat on the brim of his hat. Although he used to only have a few loose straws as hair, there were now many well-managed golden strands that went just above his shoulders. The gloves that covered his wooden hands were also made of fine white satin. His right hand rested on a wooden table where his famous diploma and a few poppies were on display. Something about the painting made Dorothy's heart ache. There was a clear change. Beneath all of the grandeur in the king's appearance, there was a hint of sadness in his face. However, the farm girl thought that it all had to be in her head. From what Weiser had told her, Scarecrow was perfectly happy and enjoyed being the king. He loved the Emerald City and his people more than anything in the world. "Everything going on in my life is making me see things," Dorothy reflected with a sigh, rubbing the side of her face. "Hopefully, seeing him again will make me feel better." Turning around, the farm girl saw the painting of a blonde woman on the opposite wall. She was very stunning and rather imposing. Dorothy couldn't help but feel small in front of this great lady. Still, there was something equally mysterious about this woman that she couldn't quite figure out. There was only one question in her mind, though. "Who is she, Ombi?" the farm girl asked in amazement, the words almost slipping from her lips. "That woman." The guardian of the throne narrowed his eyes at the portrait before answering. "Oh, that's Queen Zixie of Ix. She's one of the king's most valuable allies. Ix and Oz have developed a close trade relationship since His Majesty ascended the throne. I've heard he's quite fond of her. She spends a lot of time here visiting and such." "Oh, I see," Dorothy replied, relieved that Scarecrow hadn't really been alone. "I'm glad he has an ally. It's important for any ruler to have friends in case there's a conflict." "Right you are, Miss Gale," Ombi said before pulling on a little rope that was in front of the doors leading to the throne room. A bell rang. "Your Majesty, Dorothy Gale is here as you requested." "Oh, good. You can send her in right away," the Straw King answered politely. The Scarecrow's country accent that he had possessed all those years before had disappeared and was replaced with a smooth, official voice that she never imagined he would have. There was no friendly warmth in it, only royal hospitality that seemed superficial. "He kept us waiting too," another familiar voice stated before continuing defensively. "No need to nudge me, Tin Man. It was only a joke. Oomph. I would say that she doesn't deserve to wait a moment longer, sire." The guardian of the throne seemed a little displeased at Lion's comment. He examined Dorothy, who was standing next to him, before replying to the king. "It looks like she came a long way." The Scarecrow ignored the joke and responded in a genteel tone. "It would be rude for me to keep a lady waiting. Send her in, please, Ombi." As the doors opened, Dorothy's mind began to race. She always dreamed of this moment when things in her life would go wrong. Oz was a comfort, but the farm girl wasn't sure if it was where she belonged. Although Dorothy knew her three friends cared about her, they had their own lives now. She had changed, too, for the worse, she thought. Would they remember her, or had she changed too much? Had her world drained the wonderment out of her? Dorothy stepped over the threshold of the throne room to embrace her fate. The large door slowly closed behind her. Toto was right by her side and didn't bark, seeming to be just as nervous as his owner. The room itself was the most marvelous thing her eyes had ever beheld. A large, golden chandelier with dozens of emeralds hung from the high ceiling. Green velvet drapes framed the tall windows. The floor was made of green marble, and there was a plush carpet leading to the throne. The throne was a beautiful work of carpentry, as it was upholstered in deep emerald velvet and adorned with intricate gold leaf carvings. It stood elevated on a dais and was covered in emeralds. The Straw King sat upon it with his two best friends on either side. They stared at her in silence for what felt like an eternity. Even though the three men had heard the news of her return, it was shocking to see Dorothy again as a grown woman and not as a young farm girl. The pigtails had turned into long wavy hair, the gingham dress was replaced with one much finer, and the old cowboy boots had vanished. However, she still had the same face and caring eyes that they all knew and loved. The farm girl couldn't help but stare back, not knowing what to say. Eventually, she gained the courage to speak. "Yes, I know, it's me. Before you ask how I came back, just hear me, whoa." She was interrupted by the clanking of metal and someone throwing their arms around her. "Oh my Lurleen, it really is you, Dorothy. I can't believe it." Tin Man exclaimed happily with tears in his eyes. "I am so happy to see you. We all missed you so much. We are surprised that you came back." Lion was right behind Tin Man. He was much less emotional but still overjoyed, showing a toothy grin. "You certainly have changed, huh, Dorothy? I'm surprised to be back too. Trust me, it was completely unintentional." The farm girl replied with a smile. "I have, but it's been a while. You two look absolutely wonderful." "Well, we are just more put together," the metal man remarked, showing off his shiny body. "I polish and oil myself regularly since I have to keep up my appearance for all of the nobles and leaders. And I take great pride in this mane of mine," Lion said proudly, fluffing out his mane. "Takes me a good hour to get these curls in place." Dorothy laughed at their banter. "Even though both of you look different now, you are still the same friends I met so long ago." "I am sure of that." Toto barked happily, and the two men were delighted to see the little dog. Tin Man picked him up and scratched behind his ears. Afterward, Lion gently petted Toto's head, being careful not to hurt him. These great men were still her friends, even though they suddenly had to take on many responsibilities. Throughout this entire exchange, the Scarecrow remained seated on his throne, not moving an inch. He appeared to still be in shock and didn't know what to say. It saddened the farm girl that he didn't immediately run up and express how much he missed her. She expected at least that, especially from him. However, as the portrait had shown, this wasn't the same Scarecrow that she had known. He was elegantly dressed but was missing his signature hat, which was quite strange to Dorothy. Tin Man and Lion also took note of the coldness in his reaction, but neither wanted to bring it up. They could tell that Dorothy had already realized that their straw friend had become a stranger. She wasn't one to leave things unsaid, but this had to be handled delicately. She walked up to the throne without fear, hoping to break Scarecrow's regal exterior. "Hello, Your Majesty." The farm girl curtsied to the king with playful formality. She was trying to make him laugh. "I am very happy to be back in your beautiful city." Scarecrow looked at her and stated plainly, "You don't need to bow to me, Dorothy." She stood up and smiled, hiding her disappointment. "Oh, but I was just amazed by what I saw when I got here. The city has improved since you became king." "Well, I am glad you think so. I hold your opinion in high favor," the straw man remarked, taking in her appearance. "You look different. So do you. For the better, of course." Dorothy replied kindly, praying for a sign that he was still himself. The king sat silent for a moment before smiling and standing up from his throne. "Anyways, I apologize to the three of you and Toto, but I have some urgent business. I have to meet with some of my subjects who have issues that I must attend to." He glanced at the wooden grandfather clock next to his throne and then back at Dorothy. "You are welcome to stay here as long as you like, Dorothy. I will tell Jellia to prepare a room for you if Ombi hasn't yet." With those parting words, the Scarecrow bowed courteously to all of them and left the throne room through a pair of doors that led to another hallway. Jellia Jam, who had been standing just outside the throne room, was carrying the agenda for the day and a green pen. The door shut behind the king immediately, but his friends could still hear the conversation as he walked away. "Jellia, make sure to prepare a room for Dorothy and escort her there for me. I have an important meeting, so I won't have time to do it myself, unfortunately." "Will do, sire." Ombi sent one of the maids to tell me when she arrived. "Perfect. Thank goodness that's taken care of." A few moments after Scarecrow had departed and his voice faded down the hall, the three friends looked at each other knowingly. They were all thinking the same thing. What happened to him? Dorothy asked sadly, not wanting to believe that's how he reacted to seeing her again. We don't know, Dorothy. Lion sighed, shutting his eyes before slowly opening them. That's what we're trying to figure out. Oh, how I wish we knew. Tin Man commented tearfully, holding his chest. It hurts my heart to see him so distant from us. I thought that since he summoned us and we made the time, he would be much more like himself. People change, Tin Man. The king of the forest reasoned, trying to make sense of the whole situation. Maybe this is the new him, and we just have to get used to it. Being a ruler is a stressful thing. No, it can't be only that. The farm girl responded, knowing that the Scarecrow would never give up his old self without being provoked. Something's wrong. I don't know what, but it has to be something. He was the one she missed most of all, but now, she certainly missed the old Scarecrow. More than Kansas. More than her aunt and uncle. More than her parents. He was her only hope left now.